I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:32. I'll note we have present online, we have Christine DeStasio, Mark Kulos, Joe DeLucia. The mayor is here as an ex officio. Here in the room, I'm talking about voting members now, we have Bill Hull, Peter Gauthier, Greg Balassi, Sheila Hayes, Greg Carabine, and myself, Mark Betancourt. I know Stacy Gould contacted me and said that she was not going to be able to be at the meeting tonight. Expressed her apologies. So other than that, so we do have a quorum present. That's Christine. Oh, somebody else coming in. That's Bob Sapensky. Yeah, there you go. Just keep an eye on that. So. We have plenty of guests here tonight also. So we obviously have our owner's rep here having a seat over at on the bench of doom over there. And I'm just making stuff up sometimes. So, and several other invited guests. So, and people just want to check it out. So I'll note for the record that a quorum is present, and we'll go right to approval of minutes of the February 22nd meeting.
A motion to approve the minutes.
Sheila Hayes makes a motion to approve the minutes. Seconded by Peter Gauthier. Any additions, corrections, or deletions to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, we'll do all, as noted, the meeting is recorded. Since this is a hybrid meeting and all votes are via roll call. So we'll do the Zoom folks first. Christine DeStasio on the minutes.
Yes.
Mark Kulos.
Yes.
Joe DeLucia.
Yes.
I think that covers that. Bill Hull.
I'll abstain.
You'll abstain. That's right. He wasn't here. Peter Gauthier.
Yes.
Greg Balassi.
Yes.
Sheila Hayes.
Yes.
Greg Carabin.
Yes.
And myself. Yes. So how many we got? There's 3, 9, 10. Who are we missing? I know Stacy went on.
Cindy's not here.
Cindy's not here. That's right. Cindy's not here. She said she might be late too. That's right. Okay. She's got something else going on school-wise. All right. So the minutes will be stand approved with a vote of 8-0 with 1 abstention. So the chairman's report. I did send that report to you Friday via email. If you've read it, but I'm going to go over it here for the record. So things got kind of busy. All of a sudden, I was a little surprised by that, but that was I will say that CSG basically got through the reference check without an issue for Bob Casanova. Since then, I would say they've pretty much hit the ground running. Thank you very much. Bob, I got to take care of the contract thing. I'll do that when I get home tonight. So initially, they held a kickoff meeting with various city officials. I missed that. I'll let Bob speak to that afterwards because I guess he was there. Not a lot was going on there, but that was just kind of a logistics thing. So on March 6th, the state CGR was speaking to the superintendent and requested a meeting with city officials ASAP as there was some confusion, I think, about what we were doing. And the superintendent was actually concerned that the grant could be threatened. Wasn't really the case, but it was good that we got together and we had a chat the next day via Zoom on the 7th. They requested a letter from the superintendent regarding exactly what we were doing and the statement of, for this priority list year. If you're online in Zoom, could you mute yourselves if you're not talking there? Thank you. So they issued that letter, which contained and we were given project numbers from the state. And the letter was very simple. It just contained, we're requesting this stuff for the for the year. I think I might have sent it to you. The project number and, you know, what it was and the cost, what the estimated cost was, at least at this point. So she supplied the document to all of us, and like I said, I sent that to you. On March 9th, met with CSG, the superintendent, and some of her staff at central office to go over what was needed for the grant applications. CSG's got a very nice checklist. They're moving forward with everything that we need. Point of emphasis was working with staff to develop an educational specifications that are needed for the grant. So then after that, we took a walk around the Stanton site with Matt Brown and Bob Serpensky. And the current issues, you may or may not have heard, there's some issues with septic that they're having over there that they're doing some work on. And we discussed that because obviously we're going to be pumping more sewage out of that site. So what it is though, at that site though, most of the line that's going to be put in is going to be on city property, the way it appears, and because of that, it should be all it should be reimbursable. The important stuff, right? So then we went on to Stanton and just walked that site. Obviously, we know the topographical issues there that we'll have to work with, but we didn't get into too much there. Matt, Greenville. Yeah, I'm sorry, Greenville. I'm all right. Yeah, thank you. It just so happens that we're getting ready to leave, and Matt Gron from the Bulletin happened to call me, and I stuck around, and he came up and took some pictures and stuff like that. And we talked about the project, and he did a story on it. You might have seen it, which is always a good thing. We want some positive press for the project and stuff. So obviously, as you should know, we got the final report finally on the master plan from DRA, and I did upload it to the shared drive, and I sent links to the voting members and the city staff. So then spoke to Senator Austin last week, and I forwarded her. She asked for the letter because she wanted the numbers and the project numbers and stuff to help craft legislation for trying to get us an 80% reimbursement. I'm fairly confident. Let's put it this way, I'm hopeful. I'm never confident when it comes to Hartford, but I'm hopeful that she'll be able to accomplish that. So I say keep your fingers crossed. And I have to give her, because she's, I use this in the most endearing term I can. It's a term of endearment, but she's an animal up there, she's great. So she works real hard for us, and I'm very, very thankful to have her in our corner. So what we'll talk about today, obviously, I did mention that in that is that we'll be talking about the email we got from Mike regarding enrollment projections of what we can do in the future, but that'll be under discussion of that piece on the agenda. So anyone have any questions? So I took some of Mike's thrills away. So Mike, you got anything? I said everything Mike's got to say just about. Go ahead, Mike.
So our team started looking at enrollment projections that were part of the proper GIS report, and had some findings for that.
Excuse me, Mark, is it possible
Yes.
for him to talk more clearly?
Yeah, why don't you come up? Hang on a second. Yeah, you're a little far away from the mic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear all right now? So our team took a look at
Much better. Yeah.
the Cropper GIS enrollment report that was part of the master plan. We were also provided copies of another enrollment report that was completed by NESDEC, by the school district, as well as the current enrollment reports for the school. After analyzing the three of those reports from an enrollment perspective, the one that was provided by Cropper GIS seemed to be the most favorable as far as enrollment and the sizing of the buildings. And part of what our analysis yielded was that, you know, the sizing that would be needed for the first two schools that would meet state requirements and, you know, the enrollment report was 585 students at Greenville and Stanton. And that was because the projects are scheduled for submission this year. So 2029, 2030 is the highest enrollment that would be considered within the 8-year period by the OSCGR requirements. So then, you know, we looked at Moriarty being the next one being submitted next year. And for that one, the maximum enrollment for the district would have been 2373. And basically for the first two to get to the 585, we divided the 2338, you know, by 4 to get the 585. Then we divided the 2373 for the 2030-31 enrollment report to get 602 at Moriarty. And then we looked at Uncas, which isn't, you know, which is a little ways out, and, you know, should it be submitted in 2025? You know, the highest enrollment for the 8-year period was in 2031, 2032 at 2,405 students. So then we subtracted the capacities of the two new schools that would be built by that time at Stanton and Greenville, 585 at each of those, 602 at Moriarty, and from the 2405, what's left is 633 at Uncas. And then, you know, one other notable finding that we had that I'm trying to get confirmation from the superintendent's office is the Cropper GIS report had flatlined the enrollment for the pre-K population at 134 students going all the way out through the enrollment projection. And the interesting part of that was that the enrollment report that was provided by the superintendent's office for the current pre-K enrollment was 222 students this year. So it was unclear whether or not Cropper had projected the pre-K enrollment to us anyway, just because, you know, we may not be familiar with what's happening within the district, if it's planned to be flatlined at the 134, or maybe further analysis was needed to really determine what the pre-K enrollment was going to be. But it's definitely something that, you know, we want to confirm. And then potentially one suggestion to be made would be that it might be worth speaking to the state, since the program consists of 4 new elementary schools, rather than breaking up the sizes based on the OSCGR requirements and what the enrollment report sustains, seeing if they would allow us to, you know, look at the 2405 number and then divide that number by 4, which makes all the schools exactly the same size.
So for me, at least, just to be clear, the 2405 doesn't include the 202, it's the 130.
It's the 134 number, correct?
So
The 2405, I don't think comes into play, so the grant application for,
Uncas, correct.
whatever the third elementary is, yeah.
right, so,
Well, the 4th.
Fourth, that's,
Yeah.
excuse me, the fourth, yeah.
and that was, the 2405 was your total
Yeah, the
elementary enrollment. So you may want to have a discussion with the state, since we're trying to create parity among all new elementary schools, that we take a look at the 2405, because that's a little bit beyond what we're going to be able to include for the grant applications for this year and next year. And let them, you know, explain to them that what we're trying to do is create parity and even out the enrollment throughout all 4 schools.
Do me a favor?
Yeah.
Is it possible? Could you sit over here too? I'm here, I have a hearing disability, and trying to hear across the room is impossible.
Sorry. Especially this one.
Thank you. I'm sure the people online appreciate your request.
I have a listening disability, so. That Sheila can attest to, yeah.
I knew he was talking because I saw his lips moving. Thank you. No problem.
All right,
I have a question.
good.
So based on all of the analysis that was done by the various groups, how much growth projection from current enrollment to what you're projecting? Because I'll tell you, we, as a person who's been down this road, almost 20 years ago, and all the projections in the state was that we were going to see a huge decrease in enrollment, and that didn't happen. We saw just the opposite. And with the announcement that EB is going to increase its workforce, and we're developing housing units in the city, we're looking to increase. How much leeway do we have to convince the state, should we choose to want to go that way, that I honestly don't believe that we're going to either have just slight increase in elementary. I believe we're going to see an increase that is significant.
Well, I do have a question. I mean, have we gotten the feedback, any feedback from the superintendent's office yet?
Not yet, no.
All right, so, I'm
Just start. Is there any answer to Sheila's question?
I mean, I can give you the numbers from the, the enrollment report that was part of the
That's all the
demographic
states
study in the master plan. And, for 2022, 23, which is this year, and unfortunately, I don't have a copy of the current enrollment report from the district, but the report from 22, 23 that Cropper came up with was 2319. And then it goes to 2405. So it's really a difference.
After the 2405, does it start to drop off? I can't remember.
That's the end of the report.
Okay.
So from now until 2031, 32, it's that increase, which is what, just under 100 kids. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm saying, knowing what we know that's going on in our community, from historical, we're going to see more than 100 students. And so that concerns me, that we're building brand new schools based on numbers and almost equated to computers, is they're already going to be obsolete as soon as we build the schools.
Yeah, and that was one of the more interesting findings, was the amount of the pre-K enrollment just remaining flat at the 134, which is less than what it currently is.
That's what doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense to me. I have a, I mean, what do they do, Craig? I mean, are they just doing half day, or are they doing full day pre-K?
My
Full day
knowledge.
pre-K?
I mean, I live in the middle school world.
Yeah, I know, but you know
Full
some
day.
about it,
Full
yeah,
day, I'm aware of a half day.
yeah. They're doing full day and they're doing, so, I mean, it's,
So, yeah, we'll have to hear back from the superintendent in regards to the pre-K enrollment.
Yeah.
And then perhaps have a discussion further about strategizing how to move forward, especially with the state, in regards to, and thinking into your concern, how the enrollment is increasing, but we want to try to get that parity among all the schools.
Right.
And how can we do that with our grant applications this year, where that 2405 or 2403, I can't remember the exact number, falls outside our 8-year projected enrollment for now, but it's in play and with UNCUS.
Yes, Mark, if I could just make a comment, Christine here.
yes,
Um,
go ahead.
I thought, Kristen, I thought Kristen was going to be in on this meeting, but obviously she's the best one to answer this question. And she knows what mitigating factors they considered when they projected the enrollment. But I thought they thought the pre-K was going to go up because of having them in the schools instead of across town at Bishop. It's more convenient for parents, et cetera. But yeah, obviously that's not the answer you're looking for, but yeah, that's definitely something we need to hear back from her on.
Yeah, Mark Kulos?
Yeah, Mark might know.
Yeah, I know we have a mix of full day and half day for the pre-K. I don't know exactly what that mix is. So you'll have to get that from the superintendent. Maybe Bob Serpinski knows, I don't know. As far as it's all based on enrollment projections as far as to sizing the schools. The good thing is that it's going to be over an extended period. So if we need to increase the size of the last school we build, we can base it on the, updated enrollment figures.
Yeah, but I,
The
thought-
whole idea, though, is to try to get parity amongst the
right,
schools.
there you go. Right.
So that's the whole idea, is to divide whatever it is by 4 to come up with an average. Does the state allow for a certain percentage of overbuilding to
Not to-
allow for enrollment?
Yeah, if we foot the
Uh,
bill, that's what it boils down to. If we
I
foot the
mean,
bill.
That's why I want to have this discussion, because of what we discovered, and we understood through the master plan and attending meetings that you wanted parity across all of the new elementary schools. And when we're looking at this enrollment report, you don't, unfortunately, based on the state rules, you can't use that 2405 until we do until the enrollment or the grant application for UNCUS is done. So that's why we think maybe another discussion with the state to explain the situation, and essentially, let's just say, for lack of a better term, and I don't want to say overbuild, but the first 3 schools are built a little bit bigger based on, as compared to the highest state year projected enrollment for those schools. However, they come into compliance once UNCUS is on board.
Right.
So what we're talking about here, though, is really one classroom per school.
Well, potentially.
Yeah, essentially.
If.
Yeah, but it doesn't work that, yeah, the numbers don't, it doesn't work that way. But,
It's all by square
footage.
yeah,
And then,
So-
and then my other point is, you've also got to take into account, which probably wasn't taken into account, the fact that we're bringing back special ed students into the school. So right now, we don't have the space. So
I think,
as
Mark, I think the study does take into account that.
So
the fact that
just
we're
to,
going to bring back special ed students.
Yeah.
Total enrollment, yeah.
enrollment is total enrollment. So just to potentially shed a little bit of light on this, the way that the Bishop or the Cropper report reads, because they have breakouts for each of the individual schools, they flatline the enrollment at Bishop at 101 students all the way out to 2031, 32. 13 pre-K students at Mahan all the way out to 2031, 32. And veterans at 20 students all the way out to 2031, 32. So there may have been some confusion when Cropper did the report, as far as maybe they just used where
Okay.
are those the only population centers for pre-K right now, those 3 locations? Does anyone know?
Maybe Mark.
That's it right now for pre-K, correct?
Okay. So they probably just figured it based on what, projecting out for what it is now and not potentially considering.
Right, they were just tracking what the current is and weren't following the projected demographics.
I mean, Mike-
Overall city demographic figures that potentially would happen.
Mark, am I wrong to say that the schools have capped the number of pre-K at this point? Is that a wrong thing to say?
That's a wrong thing to say, yes. We haven't capped it. Well, we do have a cap essentially as far as total numbers allowed per classroom. And we're very close to max on that, if not at max. So the current figures may be very close to our maximum capacity right now.
That's something obviously we're gonna have to discuss, with the state and, well, obviously we gotta hear from the administration on that one, so.
And
Okay.
there,
Somebody else?
well, there is a bill in the legislature that would open pre-K to newborns, but I hope that goes nowhere. They would change it from 3-year-old eligible to newborns. So I hope that dies in committee.
You said it.
Yeah, so if the legislature extends the pre-K to an earlier age, that would also require that we get more certified staff in also. So that's going to mess up everything.
Excuse me,
Alright.
Mark.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, just for information's sake, there are private sector sites that handle this daycare issue currently in the city. There's about 354 daycare slots that are funded through the school readiness grant that we receive. It's about $2.3 million of state funds. As you discuss this issue of having capacity for these little ones, keep in mind there is still the private sector and the influence that provides for us in looking at the school sites is when they age out of those daycare facilities, you're going to see a number of those kids come into the elementary system. So you need to keep track of that, and I can provide that information for you.
That would certainly be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, so before we leave it, so who owes the answer and by when?
Well, the administration, I mean, Mike's already asked,
Yeah,
Mike's already asked the administration to take a look at this.
Yeah, I hadn't set a deadline on when the answer would come, but going forward, the administration actually asked that I send them deadlines as to when we need the information for everything. So going forward, I'll do that.
And then the next step will be to contact the state.
Well, potentially, the enrollment projections may need to be updated should there be any change, yeah. And, in order to sustain schedule that we have, the sooner the better, so that we can get updated enrollment reports, because, in part of developing the ed specs, we need to know the square footages of the buildings in order to create, a space allocation for all the projects. So, we have been meeting, and I'm probably jumping ahead, but we have been doing as much as we can, given the information that we have, while we're waiting for that answer. So, and I'll get a little bit more into that when we do the update unless that's now. I don't want to jump around.
No, this is, we're on you.
Okay.
We're on you. So
so
I went, and then I'm gonna check in for public comment, but I don't think there isn't usually any.
So short of, waiting for the enrollment information, we've been meeting with the facilities staff at the school, Matt Brown and Matt Warzika. I think that's how you say his name. If I'm mistaken, I apologize, Matt. And we went over the IT infrastructure and the building systems portion of the ed spec. So, just for everyone that doesn't know, the educational specifications will really be a description of every space in the building. A high level description. A classroom will have, as much natural light as possible. It'll be furnished with a teacher desk, student desks, a digital display board, a sound system. It'll have, resilient flooring on the floor, and it'll have sheetrock or paint for walls. So, in the interim, while we were waiting for that stuff, we reached out to them to establish that portion of the educational specification. The other thing that we did, we were able to obtain drawings for the Stanton School that they had from their archive.
Oh, you did get.
Yep. So I have those. And one question was that we had was, I want to get those digitized because some of those drawings will probably be used for the solicitations when we go out for an architect, so they can at least see what the existing Stanton School looks like and have the survey. And, you know, we'd be looking, you know, to get those scanned by, I don't know if you have a preferable vendor that you guys use in the city for document reproduction.
Peter, does NPU do that stuff? Or does the school system have somebody?
Could you repeat that question, please?
Scanning, we'd be looking
Full-size
to,
drawings.
yeah, be looking to scan full-size drawings. Chris, do you, Chris
Do you-
LaRose?
They have technology that could be very helpful with that. Yes.
Chris, do you guys have anything like that? If you're listening here, can you unmute? You sitting there?
Yes, I'm listening, and no, not as.
No,
yeah.
Chris, I was talking about Chris LaRose, yeah.
Oh, that's,
From NPU.
I'm like, why is he asking me that?
No.
I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't catch the question. I had some hearing problems.
We're looking to scan some full-size architectural drawings. Do you guys have the setup for that kind of stuff, or?
We've got a plotter, and we can have my GIS group take a look at it.
Okay.
All right, do you want to reach out to them, Mike? I'll send you his email.
Contact information. and then
And
I'll-
if you can send us the GIS file, you know, the actual file, we can probably just print it direct instead of copying it.
These drawings are the original drawings from when Stanton was built, so I
It is-
doubt
Okay.
that we'll have an
Yeah.
electronic version.
You'd have to be scanned first.
And then,
Yep.
you know, to further on that, Matt Brown was going to the city to see if he could find a A2 survey of the Stanton site, just to understand the limits. You know, because that'll also be something that we would include when we go out for the architectural services.
All right, what's that? A2?
It's just a formalized survey that shows the
Oh,
piece of land, so, you know, all the boundary lines where the utilities are on the site, just,
Mhm.
you know, it'll help the architecture teams begin to develop, you know, potential locations, you know, that they may put into their response. And, yeah, and then other than that, the only other portion of the update is, you know, we created the SCG 9000 school safety and security letters, and, you know, with the new project numbers, because the project numbers were provided from you guys, and we sent those off to Maria Perillo, the district security coordinator, to get those, you know, in the queue to get up to the Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. Now that's a task that we typically do early, just in case there's any issues with the school's security plans, because if they need to be updated, that can sometimes be a time-consuming process with Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. So we just didn't want to wait till the end to do that in case anything may need to be revised. Greenville may pose an additional challenge just because there likely may not be a school security plan on file with the state for that location, just because there hasn't been a school there.
We could do
Yeah,
what we
we've-
did with,
yeah. We've
yeah.
We've worked through that, but it typically can take a little bit longer just because you're, you know, making a theoretical plan without a full design.
All right, good. Anything else? That covers it? All right,
Can-
go ahead.
Timeframe, what's I guess, starting backwards from the time the application that you're working on
Goes in.
goes in, so backwards for me, please.
Yeah, I mean, getting the enrollment report clarified is kind of like an ASAP thing at this point, just, you know, because we need those numbers in order to really establish these ed specs. You know, at this point, I don't think we're really all that concerned with the other items as part of the grant application. You know, we've gotten a lot of information. You know, one thing that I forgot to mention was that we've reached out to DRA on Mark's advice. They provided us some sections from the final master plan document that relates to staff interviews. We received that a day or two ago, so we're going through that now to see that if we have sufficient information to draft the educational specifications. If we don't, we may need to hold some follow-up interviews with staff, but until we get through all of that information that they provided, I don't want to, you know, necessarily say that we're going to need to hold another round of staff meetings at this point, but
Let me go to, when is your projected application date?
uh,
And then that's what I'm saying.
June 30th.
We'll hold June 30th for now until, we're gonna refine that schedule a little, you know, as we get a little bit more information. I mean, I think what we showed,
I'm pulling that up right now.
yeah, it was, we would have everything, I want to say it was the end of May. if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. Because you already have your funding approved, which usually is the longest activity. Now it's going to be the development of the educational specifications and the professional cost estimate. So we did do a preliminary schedule. But, you know, now we have to back into it with some of the additional information that we've received and some of the things that we wanted to discuss perhaps with the state in terms of the enrollment, what we talked about earlier.
I asked that question because Senator Austin had recommended a May date.
No, well, yeah, no, so we met with the state and they told us what they needed. So we have basically, I mean, they threw an October 1st date out there as an example of a drop dead. I mean, they said it doesn't have to be that date or whatever, but we just want to know, because they're doing this legislatively, we're going to be on the priority list. So the issue is, when are you going to get us the stuff? So I also want to have a good relationship with these people, you know? I don't want to make their job harder, you know? So our goal is to get it to them by the 30th, if we can, if there's any way. We have basically, it was a 2-3 month leeway all the way out to October 1st if we need it. I don't want to use it if we don't have to, you know? So I want to try to get us on board like everybody else is, even though we have this legislative advantage, you know? Because, you know, that's the kind of relationship, to be honest with you, I want to kind of develop with them. And, I don't think, I'm gonna say, you know, like kiss their ass a little bit, meeting, whatever, sorry.
That was
It was good. But the good timing, yeah, bleep it out. But it's like my wife trying to kick my shins all the time, it's under the table. So but seriously, I think it's to our advantage to have that kind of relationship with them. And so I certainly want to be, you know, cooperative. This is a huge project. It's going to be complicated. We're going to have bumps in the road, and we're going to need their help along the way. So I certainly want to make that relationship as smooth as we possibly can on our end.
Yeah, so right now, within the educational specifications, the way that we had it laid out, you know, we're still within the schedule. We had from, you know, basically this week all the way through, you know, the first week of April to determine the space allocation and the specifications for building areas, meaning just the square footages that we needed, and then, you know, getting those space allocations into the program. So, you know, a lot of what this is gonna hinge on is when we get, you know, the updated finalized enrollment projections, and when, you know, and if the information from DRA isn't sufficient to develop the final educational specifications for each of the classrooms.
Those are your two critical.
And then the second week of April, we were looking to try and distribute the draft educational specifications for review by everyone, you know, so that's why I say the sooner we can get this stuff, the better.
You have that timetable,
This,
timeline?
yeah,
Can you send it to us?
yeah, I can, yeah.
Just send it my way.
Yeah, I'll clean it up a little bit, and then, yeah, but everything else is, you know, in line. The SCGO 53, which is the site analysis for the building programs form, is gonna also hinge on those, you know, those dates or the enrollment numbers, because you can't fill out that form completely until you have those enrollment numbers. It's like one of the specific questions on the form. So, you know, I'll be working on getting the other background information that you can put together. They require, you know, FEMA flood maps and state of Connecticut geographic mapping for flood hazards and coastal boundaries and that type of stuff. And I could pull all those maps right off
I
the
know some of
website.
that's
Yeah.
like wetlands and
Yeah,
things like that.
yeah.
Those were all things that I know DRA talked about when we were drafting the master
Mhm.
plan, so.
Well, how long have you been waiting for an answer from the superintendent?
I think, let me see when the first one went out. Week? Yeah, maybe about a week.
Mark Kulos, you have a question?
I sent it last Tuesday. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. My question is, for any of these submissions to the state, are council or BOE approval required?
Ed specs would
yeah.
be Ed specs would be BOE approval required.
The other items that required approval from the council are already submitted at the last council meeting, I believe, and we have the certified resolutions from that building committee meeting. We will be looking for the certified copy of the next meeting minutes that approve the meeting minutes where the resolutions were approved. And I believe that'll happen at this month's
Yeah, this
council
coming
meeting.
First meeting next month.
All right.
So from the timeline, from what I heard, still shooting for 5:31.
Mm.
Goal is 6:30. And there's this, everything goes to kaput. We still have till October.
We still have time.
Okay. But we're still shooting at 5:31.
We're still, well, end of June to be done.
You said 5:31 a few minutes ago.
No.
Said end of May.
And, no, I think.
For a certain piece.
Oh, did I?
No,
Yeah,
Sheila.
that's where I was asking
Oh,
about
okay.
the May.
Yeah.
That's-
I'm
that's-
sorry.
Yeah.
That's why I thought you were lying with what Senator Austin.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, no, no.
so the May 30th.
Good catch.
That was, yeah.
Christine, did you?
Just regarding that request to Kristen, I would definitely resend that, Mr. Fianza, because that is very unusual for her not to respond quickly. So I would definitely resend that request.
Get an acknowledgement.
She responded to that email, and then I sent out a follow-up email. When did that go out? I think I sent that this week. Oh, maybe it was,
It was Friday.
no, so I sent the original email out on Tuesday of last week, and then a follow-up on Thursday to see if they had had a chance to process through the enrollment reports.
And you haven't heard anything back since then?
Get an
No,
acknowledgement
the-
on either one?
The original email, I got an acknowledgement back on one of the emails that I sent regarding meeting with the facilities staff to schedule everything through the superintendent's office going forward, which I'll do.
All right, I would resend the one that you followed up with on Thursday. It
Okay.
doesn't hurt, and she won't
Okay.
get aggravated. She's
Okay.
extremely busy.
All right, anything else as far as that goes? All
So
right,
on the dates.
so the next thing I have on the agenda, I don't know if there's anyone here that wanted to make public comment that's here from the public or online.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Can you come closer?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Pam Kinder. I'm from UCFS Healthcare, and we have school-based health centers at Stanton, Kelly, and Teachers currently. So we want to be able to be part of the discussion and the design. I understand it's early, but it sounds like you're already meeting with facilities. We have ideas that we can add to the ability to have a state-of-the-art school-based health center in the schools and have 8 school-based health centers currently, with the opportunity for the new schools that you're talking about to have school-based health centers in those. We currently see about 583 kids in those 3 schools and expect those numbers to grow. So happy to answer any questions or give you my contact information.
Yeah, well, it would be good to get your contact information.
Absolutely. Great.
She's also on the group send list when I do the agendas and everything. Her email address is in there, so.
Yep.
Or it will be, I think maybe with the next one, because I got to change. Did you get the Did I can't remember.
Sent it through Deb Hinchy.
I sent it through Deb, right? So I need to put yours on there,
It's
yeah.
like Stanton, we're in like the trailer, the portable trailer.
Okay.
Right now, so we just don't want to be forgotten in the discussions because it's really.
You don't want to be in another portable trailer.
Right.
So,
The senior leadership at UCFS and the North Public Schools really want to make sure that kids have quality, accessible healthcare, mental health and dental services. So we want to be part of the discussion.
Right, and you have a list of other services they provide.
Well, when we reach out to them, I think
Okay.
it'll be helpful to get the input from them as to,
I'll send my
Yeah.
contact information to Mark and then you can share
Okay.
it with the media and we can have a discussion.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Anyone else?
Yeah, Mark Kulos, again.
Not public, though.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're still public comment.
I was just looking for public comment. I don't see any other public comments, so Mark, go ahead if you want, if there's something you want to add to the discussion.
Yeah, along the design of the health centers, we should also consider, right now, we're putting out to bid for food services. So potentially whatever food service company we go with, or decide to keep it. At this point, I'm not sure what the bids would come in at. They should be involved in the design process also of the kitchens, the food service areas. Especially if we go with a national firm like Chartwells or whatever that may have good design plans already in place for elementary schools.
yeah, we'll certainly meet with them, as it, the plan develops, as far as the educational specifications, the high level nature that they are, I think we can come up with something based on what you guys are currently doing.
Yeah, we can meet with them.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
We do
Yeah.
it all the time. I mean, we met with them for all
Yeah.
the other aspects that we've done. Chartwell's, Whitson.
When is that bid due, Mark?
I don't know, Bob Serpensky would know.
We're in process of doing now. If we do accept proposals, it would happen for July 1st.
July 1st?
Yeah, so they're not on board yet, and they might not even be the winning bid, we don't know. We'd have to go through that process, the state-defined process that takes a few months.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'll move on to discussion regarding the population size issues. I think we've covered pretty much most of the ground there. I think basically, obviously, we're gonna, once we get the numbers from the administration or where we're gonna go, obviously, I think we need an update. I think that much is apparent, at least confirmation, of the numbers. And then, depending, and the mayor brought up a relevant point. There's an element there with the private sector. That, keep in mind in the back of our heads. But so I'm not sure there's any real action that we need to take right now as a committee. Would I be wrong to say that I think that our goal would be to spread, as far as equity goes, to have schools the same size, if at all possible? Would we approach, so we would approach the state on that issue? Why don't we do that in the form of a motion, as a policy motion? I think that would be appropriate at this point. So it would be something, that the goal, regarding the 4 elementary schools is to have them, in order to help achieve parity, to have them, all the same size, if at all possible. So moved by Bill Hull. Is there a second? Sheila Hayes with a second. Any discussion on that issue? So if, I know we've hashed this out a little bit already, but if anyone has anything you want to add, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, it's, well, not only from a diversity equity standpoint, but also from a construction standpoint too. I mean, it would help as far as standardization and ordering materials and labor force and whatnot to right size everything.
Motion's been made, seconded.
Discussion. Discussion. It's all right. I don't have anything. Anyone else, anything else to add?
Where will the action lie?
Where will the action lie?
Who's got it?
That's the goal. It's to set the, that's the goal. So, yeah, so anything that happens from here on is trying to meet that goal. So if we can. So it's, a lot of that's going to be set by the state, to be honest with you. That's what it's going to really boil down to. That's, you know, if they'll accept, like, what would be the word I'm looking for? To incorporate the entire, you know, enrollment situation to the size of, you know, size of the schools now, yeah. So that's really what, you know, we're hoping for. So we'd have to talk, like I said, it'll be up to the state on that. And we'll try to work with them on that.
Who's the we? You? Who's taking the lead in the discussion with?
CSG,
Okay.
me, whoever else.
Okay.
So this, you know,
It's our goal, otherwise it's back to what the state says.
Right.
Which is always what it's going to be.
right,
what the state
it's
says.
probably gonna be that anyway, but it gives
our
us,
goal.
yeah, it's our goal. We want this, yeah, but if you don't ask for it, you're not gonna get it either.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
It doesn't hurt to ask, you know, so.
Could I just ask you before we take the vote, not that it's going to impact the vote, is that if we were to get a higher reimbursement rate, and I don't know what the difference, so let's say we wanted to achieve the parity, let's just say the state,
That's yes, but lowers the reimbursement rate.
yes, correct.
I don't think we want.
No, the reimbursement rate will be legislative. So I'm
Okay,
not.
so that's different from
Yeah.
state action.
There's one other piece of the reimbursement, because we don't have numbers for that at this point, that we should also consider that we dealt with on the Kelly issue. I will tell you from a legislative issue is square footage. So in the DRA plan, don't forget, we are over, and I believe their specs are over in square footage from what the minimum specs are. So that's going to be a consideration down the road that, you know, we'll be looking probably for a little legislative relief on too. But I haven't discussed that with Kathy yet, because we don't really have numbers on that at this point. So, but just keep that in mind in the back of your heads. So,
Well, I'm sorry, Markoulis. Also, one of the state's major drivers in education for the past 35 years has been the CHEF guidelines of maintaining equity and diversity through education throughout the state. So that's, you know, trying to maintain equity and diversity and equal distribution throughout our system would be one of our goals. And if we can throw, you know, CHEF guidelines in there too, that would be probably a big plus in our column.
Jeff is only for Hartford.
yeah, okay.
It was negotiated to a settlement, so I don't.
Yeah, that
I
was
don't know
some,
how
well,
much it's gonna help us.
it's a good, it's a valid point, though. We'll see. All right, well, let's go to a vote. We'll start with Zoom again. Christine DeStazio,
Yes,
Mark,
Yes,
Joe DeLucia,
Yes.
Bill Hull,
Yes.
Peter Gunther,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes,
Greg. Mark Betancourt, yes. It's unanimous. For those present and voting, it's 9-0. All right. I don't have anything else on the agenda other than anything else to be brought before the committee. Does anybody need to bring anything else up at this point? Think we have a good idea? And a motion, if not, if there's nothing else, then a motion to adjourn will be in order. Oh, wait a minute, hang on.
So if for some reason a special meeting is needed.
Yeah.
It will be called.
Yeah.
If there's, okay, I just.
If there's anything, I mean, certainly in this day and age, we could schedule a meeting if it's something, if there's one issue kind of situation, we could do a virtual or something like that, not drag everybody out, that kind of thing.
No, I'm just referencing the two critical path issues that if
Yeah, I mean,
they're not, if for some reason the committee needs to
Yeah,
come back together, then
yeah.
alright. So I guess then a motion to adjourn will be in order. So moved by Bill Hull, second.
Sheila Hayes.
Sheila Hayes with a second. Christine DeStazio,
Yes.
Mark Poulos,
Yes.
Joe DeLucia,
Yes.
Bill Hull,
Yes.
Peter Gothier, Greg Galassi, Sheila Hayes.
Yes.
Greg Carabine, Mark Betancourt, yes. It is now 7:27 and we stand adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.